you're an ex JP Morgan investment banker.
Yeah.
What was your?
I spent 3 years in the investment bank and 4 years in asset management. Yeah.
Now, and then, so you've gone from, most people that listen to this will be like, well, like JP Morgan, like, you know, you've sort of like hit the jackpot there, really. Like, so many people would aspire to go to work for such a prestigious institution. And then you decided to quit your job and go self-employed. But before we get into all of that, I'd like to understand what your ambitions were growing up.
Yeah, good question. So I don't think I was ever clear on what I really wanted to be growing up.
Yeah.
When I got to about 18, it was around the time of the financial crisis.
Yeah.
And I started kind of wanting to understand what happened in the financial crisis, and what was behind it. And it was at the time that I then took a gap year. So I remember reading a lot about it during my gap year. I then went on to study economics at uni, and then it sort of all naturally just pointed to a career in either finance or management consulting. Those are the two careers that I was interested in.
Okay.
But yeah, I think going back when I was much younger, I think I wanted to be like initially a lawyer, and then that transitioned. I don't really like reading long pieces of dry text, so I decided no to that.
That was the same as me. I sort of grew up being like, you know, above average smart in the school, and it's like, okay, well, what career paths are available to you? Lawyer, accountant. I didn't actually really think about finance, to be honest with you, when I was in school, which is really interesting because I geared up everything to be a lawyer, and then went to work for a law firm and realised I hated it.
Yeah. So you actually went to a law firm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I started my first 2 years working in law. In fact, one of the guys you met the other night was my old boss back in the day. Yeah. Okay. So, but yeah, I started off working in law, and that was my ambition always growing up, is to, I want to be a lawyer. And then went to work for a law firm, and I hated it. And I feel very fortunate now that I've stumbled across into investment management. But what was your journey like into JP Morgan?
So first year at uni, I was fortunate enough before uni to actually spend a couple of days in the city on sort of informal work experience days. And everyone that I spoke to said basically, when you get to uni, start thinking about applying to internships so that you can get onto a grad scheme. And so first year at uni, I looked at what was available, and it was kind of spring weeks in first year. So applied to a load of spring weeks. I think I did one with the FCA. It was called the FCA at the time. No, FSA it was called. It's now called the FCA.
Yeah.
And then a couple of kind of insight days with, you know, like Big Four, those sorts of things. So that was first year. And then summer of first year, managed to get on a few more work experience days. And then second year, I applied to a load of internships at banks and got the one at JP Morgan.
Nice.
Did that 10 weeks at JP Morgan, and then was fortunate enough to be offered a job the following year after I graduated. So I managed to go into third year knowing I had a job at the end of it.
Oh, wicked. Yeah. Okay. That's a nice privilege to have, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, you can just go, yeah, okay, cool. Just
kind of enjoy
the last year.
Freedom. Well, freedom, if you want to call it that. But yeah.
What's it like working for JP Morgan?
So I had an amazing time there. So I was there for 7 years in total. Like I said, 3 years in the investment bank, 4 years in asset management. And yeah, you're surrounded by very smart people. Everyone on the grad scheme had come from a top uni in the UK or the US or another top uni somewhere in the world. And yeah, our first 9 weeks were in New York together. So we were all in this classroom.
Really?
Yeah, learning about pretty much everything we needed to know. Not everything we needed to know for the job, but like background education, so kind of how financial markets work, and understanding how derivatives are structured and all that sort of thing. And it was intense, but really, really rewarding by the end of it. And then came back from that, joined the actual job. And yeah, I mean, it was a very steep learning curve from day one. But again, you're surrounded. You're in a very professional organization. So the stuff that you pick up on a daily basis about, which you don't really realize at the time, about how to, you know, basic things, how to run meetings, how to make decisions as a group, how to implement strategy, how to set goals, how to make decisions every month. You don't realize it at the time, but the real world outside these professional organizations doesn't really work like that at all. So incredibly valuable education. And I learned a huge amount. It's very fast paced a lot of the time.
Yeah,
there's a lot going on. Sometimes pretty stressful, but rewarding at the same time.
Did you have the sort of like stereotypical, you know, working long days and that sort of stuff?
My working days weren't too bad, but there are times when there is an expectation that you just get the work done.
Yeah.
And you know, I think nowadays people are a bit more supportive of work-life balance. So officially, you know, it's like, you know, manage your mental health, take time off, but unofficially, it's like if something needs to get done, then you respond to the email. Doesn't really matter what time it is.
Yeah. And what was then? So you had 7 years at JP Morgan, and I can only assume, because I work in the industry as well, like decent salary and that sort of thing. Why did you decide to quit?
Yeah, good question. And I do get asked that very regularly, actually, unsurprisingly. So we went into lockdown in COVID, and what I really loved about my job was the social aspect. I loved my team. We got on really well, and we would do stuff outside of work together. So a couple of the guys I played golf with, we'd go out for after work drinks, we'd run at lunchtime, stuff like that. And then when we went into lockdown, there was this kind of sudden realization that I had that if you remove the social aspect from my job, I'm left with kind of the job. And I just sort of, I kind of had this realization that like, this is my job. Like, this is what I'm doing for the next 30 years. And I was kind of like, okay, do I want to do this for the next 30 years? Or do I want to find something else within finance that I would rather do than this? And I kind of just thought, if I were to start from a blank sheets of paper, what do I want? And I just decided that it was now or never if I was going to leave and take a bit of a risk and do something else. I thought, what would 45-year-old Tom say to 28-year-old Tom in this position? And I couldn't say to myself, no, stay at JP Morgan, because worst case scenario, I'd do something else, doesn't work. And I've got 7 years experience at JP Morgan. I've done my CFA. I'd get another job in finance. That was the way I looked at it. Perhaps naively, who knows?